A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to today's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Tewan Jabela, your host. Let's look at some of the headlines in tomorrow's Namibian Sun. Beef and imports increase, or beef imports rather increase, but exports have decreased. That full story is in Namibian Sun tomorrow, and that is the details are in tomorrow's edition as far as that headline is concerned. Drought and other factors had an impact on that. Helmut Angula opposes Swapo's incumbent presidents, endorsing a successor. We've seen President Noa appoint or nominating, or rather endorsing Hifikepunye Pohamba, and Pohamba endorsing Hage Geingob, and that man there says it should stop. The last item also to watch out in tomorrow's paper is the civil society organizations continuing to oppose the operations of Recon Africa in Kavango East region, and they've asked Chekero Twea, who's the chairperson of the standing committee dealing with that matter, to heed their call. Those stories and many others are in tomorrow's edition. Tonight on the show, we are very privileged to have the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Namibia, that is Mr. Paulus Noa, to share with us the mandate of his office, the work that he has done over the number of years that he's been in charge of this body, and the year ahead. Mr. Noa, thank you very much for making time. We appreciate it, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Give us maybe just in not so many words, a sense of what the ACC mandate is. It's a pedestrian question, but I'm asking this because so many people still wonder what ACC does and what it doesn't do, because sometimes there are some ambiguities as far as your activities are concerned. If you can brief us.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Njabela. The ACC is a body that is established by a constitution, yeah, and also a statute. Yeah. The statutory law outlined in detail what the powers and functions of the ACC are. Yeah, yeah. Just to mention some of these core functions, it's like investigation, of course, cases of corruption, alleged corruption. Yeah. Not just any form of crime, yeah, yeah, under the sun, but is those offenses of corruption. Yeah. And they are also listed in the Act. And this is where people also go wrong, because people think that anything that they think is morally wrong, yeah, then it should be under the radar of the Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate. But in fact, the list of offenses that ACC is mandated to investigate, yeah, are listed in the statutory law, and we are confined to those conducts, yeah, as listed there. The other thing is also, of course, to raise awareness. Yeah. That is one of the core functions of the commission, to raise awareness and also to prevent. To prevent corruptions by way of examining the systems, like we have been doing this corruption risk assessment in various institutions to look at where the shortcomings in certain offices are, yeah, and advise accordingly as to what measures need to be put in place. On awareness, definitely is to consult the institutions, to raise awareness, to inform them about the dangers of corruption. What are the impacts of corruption to the economy, to an ordinary citizen on the street, and also to the good policies that are put in place. You know, good governance is about implementing those good policies that have been passed by the authorities. But at times you find that these policies are not being implemented to the letter. And that is sometimes our business to recommend it to the institution and advise them on what needs to be done. And also to detect the loopholes, because you see, you find sometimes certain policy or certain laws, you know, have already outlived the time they were supposed to be used. As a result of that, our business is also to advise institutions so that they can review those policies. Then whether some of the institutions do it or not, that is another issue.
That's another issue.
Yes.
Indeed. Just, Mr. Noa, one of those ambiguities that I spoke about in the beginning is, do you confine is your mandate confined to public institutions, or can I, as Namibian Sun, report one of, can I be reported to ACC, and does your mandate extend to us also? Yeah,
if it's a matter of corruption, we'll then, once we receive the complaint, we'll analyze the complaint and look at it and see whether it is one of these mandates that falls within the mandate of the Anti-Corruption Commission, notwithstanding that you are from a private institution. Because the Act says investigating corruption in public and private bodies. Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes. But it obviously depends on. Most of the time people do come, but when you analyze, you find that this is pure administrative matters. Even in public bodies, sometimes people report what ought to be dealt with administratively by the administrative authorities. And in those circumstances, it all depends. If we feel that no, there's a need for some preliminary investigation, this is a preliminary inquiry to be done first before we refer it to the relevant authority, we do so. Sometimes out of preliminary inquiry, you find that no, there are merits for full-scale corruption investigation, and we also do equally the same.
Indeed. Now, according to those statutes that you listed, Mr. Noa, earlier on, the founding act of ACC and related instruments, to whom do you report as DG of the ACC? Who is your sort of appointing authority, or your boss, or are you a man on your own?
Yeah, you see, the Anti-Corruption Commission is established to be an independent and impartial body. And that's the reason why it does not report to a specific minister or to a prime minister and so on, except to the prime minister, except in terms of submitting the annual report for the purpose of tabling it in parliament. So if I have to answer you, then who my boss is the Namibian people. Because at the end of the day, once the report is tabled in parliament, it becomes a public document which must be accessed, and it is the Namibian people who should then read it and analyze and make whatever comments they wanted to make about the works that has been done and so on. Otherwise, I do not report to the executive authority. And it was done deliberately so by the lawmaker to ensure that the Anti-Corruption Commission is not being controlled by the executive authority. The issue of appointment obviously is like any other person is appointed by a certain authority. But being appointed does not necessarily mean that you are now subject to that in terms of doing your work. Who, after all, who is not appointed by someone else? All of us are appointed by someone else. Like in this case, there is a constitutional duty given to the president to actually nominate and recommended to the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And the National Assembly is the one with the responsibility to appoint at the end of the day. Unlike what people always say, the president appoints, so the president nominates,
Yeah.
because that is what the Constitution, it's not the act,
Yeah.
it's the Constitution,
Yeah.
which is the supreme law of this country.
Yeah.
It's the Constitution that gives that mandate to the president to nominate
Yeah.
and submit to the other arms of state. The other arms of state, if it does not want to,
Yeah.
probably it will not. Yes, that's how it works in
yeah.
terms of appointment.
Yeah, and that is where I think it's also now difficult, Mr. Noa, because when you, like you were reappointed last year, and the president, of course, following the available routes in law, nominated you and then or recommended for your reappointment, and then Parliament had to affirm your appointment, which is what happened in the end. Do you think that it puts you or any of your future successors in a difficult position, especially because the president of a country is a very important personality in our sphere of politics and sphere of governance? And if there was something that you needed to investigate against the president or his closest allies, and then you are reminded constantly by others or even by yourself that this is a man who recommended for your reappointment, does that not put you in a very difficult position to be really impartial?
Okay. I don't really think so, in the sense that, okay, the president could have arranged,
Yeah.
if the law was saying otherwise. Because now we are talking about the Constitution. And the Constitution, when the Constitution says something, that's what needs to be followed. Yeah, but then if it was saying something else, again the argument could come. If for argument's sake, the Constitution was saying that the president must set up a certain committee, and then that committee must recommend certain names. Some other people will also come and say that, how will he not favor those members of the committee who and so on and so on? Probably some will come and say that. But I'm not saying that this is not a matter that the authority cannot reconsider maybe in the future. But then to reconsider it means that to amend the Constitution, nothing else. You amend the Constitution. Otherwise, the president must play to the rule of law, which in this instance is the Constitution.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you feel indebted to the president after what he has done for you? Your contract had ended. He extended your contract for a few months while they were working on a longer-term solution, and then eventually he recommended for your new 5-year term. Do you feel indebted to the president to the extent that in future you could be favorable to him?
No, indebted for what? After all, the current president found me already in this position. As a previously it was the title was that of a director of Anti-Corruption Commission. It is not the current president who appointed me in this position. What the current president did, he simply, in other words, just recommended me for reappointment. And I'm just assuming that, mind you, it's not only me, also my deputy. No one was taken. If for argument's sake, the deputy was taken out and I'm the only one reappointed, maybe the argument could be that no, I think it was done for certain motives. But if both of us have been recommended by the same president for reappointment, and one of the reasons could be that because there are these ongoing matters that if someone else comes into, I'm just assuming,
of course,
if someone else comes into this position, maybe it will take that other person sometimes to familiarize himself with all these cases that are currently pending. I'm just assuming. This is not what the president said to me. After all, what I must tell you, Mr. Jebera, is that this is not a kind of a position you are really feel pleased to to be in.
To occupy.
But when you are given a responsibility, you have to carry out that responsibility.
Yes.
But otherwise it's not a popular position. I must tell you.
Yeah.
You know very well. You know very well. How many times have you attacked me? You know, and your colleagues, how many times they attacked me? If it was somebody else, maybe you could have thrown in a towel to say, oh, but no, I'm not prepared to face this kind of insult all the times. You know? Yes.
No, I understand. Yeah. And you know, we don't attack you, Mr. Noa. We just scrutinize your work.
Maybe you call it scrutiny. It's fine.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. Yeah. So then, give me a sense then, Mr. Noa, of what do you think you have done since, I think the ACC came up in 2006 or so. You were the inaugural Director General, as it's called now, of the ACC. What is it that you think you've done to appease the president so much that you could recommend for your reappointment? What is the one thing or two that you are most proud of in your work so far?
Okay, maybe you could have, I wish you could have directed that question to the appointing authority.
Yeah, but
the recommending authority, the president, and the National Assembly, the appointing authority.
Very good.
Because I mean, if you are sending that to me, the only thing that I can say in brief is that, look, myself, and not me alone, myself and my colleague, what we always try to do as manager of the institution is to make sure that we are not swayed to do certain things contrary to the law simply to please the masses.
Yes.
We play to the law as such. When there is evidence for a particular alleged case of corruption, we make sure that we pursue that evidence, and at the end of the day, we submit it to the prosecuting authority for prosecution. Where there is no evidence for a particular allegation, irrespective whoever is alleged to be involved in that, we definitely have to close that file because there is no evidence. Remember, it is a institution where people bring all sorts of things.
Yes.
Even people who have got the personal differences, they sometimes try to use the institution to score points against others or to hit on others. But for us, is to ensure that every allegation brought to us, we take it through proper and fair investigations. At the end of the day, it's evidence that must count. Because if you have to take the matter to court, I think Namibian people have now, those who have been following the proceedings, and thank you to the media that has also been, live covering this bail proceedings. They now know that all what the court needs is evidence and nothing else but evidence. Yes. The court does not rely on any hearsay or mere document that is flying around the street or what people are rumor mongering around. No. The court needs evidence which must be concrete and proven, and it must be presented. You know, one of my investigators has been all these weeks before court there, relating the evidence that we have gathered throughout, so that the court can be convinced that this is the position. And not every just documentary piece of paper that the people are talking about on social media and so on and so on. You have not heard even a single of my investigator when they went there talking about those documentaries, because those are inadmissible documents. Rumors going around the WhatsApp group and social media. Those are inadmissible evidence, and we don't rely on those. We do the work, and we take time, and we do the work systematically until we reach the conclusion where we satisfy ourselves that, yes, here we have something concrete that we can present to the prosecuting authority, either for prosecution or for the application for the forfeiture of of assets. As you know, that there are also, at the same time, there are this bail proceeding, there are also applications for the restraining or the forfeiture of certain assets that we have restrained. I will show you even some of the things, though I will not give you this report because it's not a public document. Just to look at the asset that has been seized and presented to the prosecutor general for her to consider whether to launch an application before the High Court or not to launch an application. That is another authority that decides on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed. We go for a quick break and then return for the last 15 minutes of the show.
We have to talk about the things we both already know. I'm starving for love.
We continue our conversation with the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Mr. Paulus Noa. Mr. Noa, you alluded to something very important earlier, where you said that in your thoughts, might be one of the reasons why you were reappointed is that the ACC is now busy with some of very critical investigations, and that maybe that sense of continuity was also a consideration. One of those is the Fishrot case. You just mentioned also about the one of your top investigators having been testifying in court. Specifically, Tatenoa, when Fishrot came to the fore in late 2019, Al Jazeera reported about it, and then in the morning, 2 ministers resigned. And then we the media started talking to you. You said this case has been on your radar since 2014. But is it coincidence then, Mr. Noa, that any charges and arrest and all these court processes only came after Al Jazeera has actually brought this into the public domain?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. I previously clarified that point, but seems maybe this will also benefit those who did not follow that clarity that I made. What I said is that in 2014, there were allegations that we were pursuing pertaining to the appointment of someone as a chairperson of the board, and this person, by extension, is related to the minister.
Yes.
That was the issue that was the subject of investigation. The other issue that was combined also in our docket at the same time, it was NAMSOF, who was complaining about the cutting of their quota. Yes, cutting of their quotas. We then decided, no, perhaps there is something that we needed to look into here. Out of our own, it was not someone who stepped into our office, save NAMSOF. NAMSOF, of course, I know that there was someone who wrote a letter to us, but it was just about their quotas. Their concern was purely confined to their quota, nothing else. But in this other one is when we pick it, an article from the newspaper, we decided, no, let's initiate. Maybe we'll get into something concrete. Look, we started investigating, trying to get into something. And every person was mum. No one was prepared to give us more information that can help us to something like bribery that was going on. You see? The people whom we were interviewing, obviously, are the people who were all working together in collusion, bribing or benefiting from this, obviously, that time.
Yeah, sure.
And it's only when they started no longer understanding one another, apparently, you know, around it was around 2019 that information started coming in bit by bit.
Yeah.
When Al Jazeera, remember that Al Jazeera were doing, I would say they had their own, probably those who were behind them had their own political agenda, not really an agenda of mere exposing corruption in the country. Why I'm saying this is because Al Jazeera documentary came just maybe 2 or 3 weeks before those campaigns and elections that were going on. But at that time, Anti-Corruption Commission, we were already gathering, you see, evidence on those allegations because information started trickling in.
Yeah.
Information started trickling in, and we have already gathering information to an extent that I have even sent some officials to Angola by that time, before Al Jazeera, you know, exposed that. Or whoever, those agents of Al Jazeera, because I know that Al Jazeera was not alone here. You know the politics that was playing around in the country at that time. People coming to Anti-Corruption Commission, you know, dancing and demanding the president must resign, as if the president operates from the office of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Even your ombudsperson was there. You know, media ombudsman is one of those people who were marching there. Obviously. Okay, it is their democratic right. I don't have a problem. That is their democratic right to march and say whatever they wanted to say. But here I'm just saying this to demonstrate to you that the agenda behind all this was a political agenda, and it was not really an issue of corruption concern. By that time, we have already gathered evidence, and we were just about to take our actions on what was going on. You know, what held us back, and it became almost almost a coincidence with the exposure of this, is the statement that we wanted from the main witness outside the country. You know, and we had to make arrangement ourselves and the police to make arrangement for that statement to be obtained, and the statement must be obtained in such a manner that it becomes admissible in the courts of Namibia. You don't just find him in the street anywhere in Iceland or Norway, wherever, and say, no, look, you are a witness in the matter I'm investigating, let me take a statement from you. It will never be admitted. That's why I said to you that we play to the rule of law. We try to follow the procedure in whatever we are doing, because if we don't do that, you end up losing a case which was a relevant and important case. You know? Not only for ACC, but for the for the nation as a whole. And as a result of that, when the Al Jazeera documentary was exposed, actually we had already material document, and we were just busy with our preparation. And then we continue. As people were talking about Al Jazeera, we were just busy doing our work. You know how much longer, again, it took us before we finalized this investigation, because we were not being agitated by what people were saying and the howling and the bad remarks that the people were talking about the Anti-Corruption Commission, because we know that we have a responsibility to see to it that what we are doing is done in accordance with the law. Remember that no matter the title or the status of the person who is a suspect, he remains or she remains innocent, and it's only the court of law that must pronounce that person guilty of any wrongdoing. And it's like the people wanted to pronounce these people already guilty of wrongdoing when they themselves have no evidence against them, unfortunately.
No, I hear you, Mr. Noa. There's a strong feeling by observers, locally mostly, that if it wasn't for that exposure, because it seems as if ACC knew about some of these things. For example, if you say that the first matter to be brought to ACC was the appointment of James Atwikulipi as board chairperson at Fishrot, how long does it take to establish that? We know that James Atwikulipi is a cousin of Thompson Atwikulipi. Thompson Atwikulipi is a son-in-law of the minister. I mean, how complicated was that?
The appointment per se. That's why even now in the charges, you have not heard one of the charges referring to purely that that is the appointment.
Yeah.
It's only an element in the matter, but not a charge on its own that because of his appointment, then it was an issue. Even if we could have evidence to say that there was wrong in the appointment, it would not, culminate into what we found later on. The only people who could tell us that there were issues relating to paying of bribery and so on are the people themselves. Who were part of that. People themselves. And some of the witnesses admitted that, no, I was part of that deal, and I'm also a culprit in this matter. You see? You see, these issues of corruption is like this diamond deals. Until they disagree, it becomes difficult for them to tell you that, no, I'm also participating in this diamond deal. That's what happens. That's same with corruption. It's like that.
I hear you.
I can give you a number of cases that I'm having now where someone has come to report, not only one person, to report that, no, look, I bribed somebody because he promised to give me an F. But now I have come to report because after I give him money, it's now 6 months and then he did not make arrangements so that the municipality can give me that F, or they put my name on the list of as he promised. You see now, because he was part of this corruption deal. And what we are doing now, we make sure that this person must be charged together with the others, because actually it's the one who is who initiated these corrupt practices to the other one. The one who offer and the one who accept, they are equally guilty of corruption.
Totally, I agree, totally, Mr. Noa there. I think in the interest of time, I have one more question. And this is the question around, because one of the issues, Mr. Noa, is perceptions that, for example, when you say people came to demonstrate and asking the president to resign, and you're talking about the politics of 2019, which I do not dismiss. I think there's a sense in that. But you come off as very defensive of some things. Maybe you are not, but I'm saying that the perception out there sometimes is that. For example, we talk about whether Swapo, the ruling party, benefited from this scheme or not. Your investigators, Mr. Kanyang, not Mr. Oliver, your previous investigator, said in court that he produced evidence of a trail of money that went to Swapo officials. Some of the Fishrot accused people have testified themselves that there was money meant for campaign groups in the party, or basically the party. But you seem to be the only one, Mr. Noa, that has a different take on this. Why is that the case?
No, there is no different take, Mr. Njibera, unless there is a misunderstanding from your side and from the side of those who are in the same category of perception as yours on that. Look, what I have said remains the position, and it has not, still up as I'm speaking to you, it has not been contradicted by evidence. What I have said is that our investigation up to now, and it remains the position up to now, it has not been able to find a trail of evidence of money being deposited. Get me right there. Being deposited into the bank accounts of the Swapo party.
But who would do that? It's corrupt money.
That is what I have said. That's what I have said. I have never said that members of the Swapo parties did not benefit from that money. I said because, look, I said that because the question was put to me. You see, in one of this meeting we had, the question was, we saw the name of the Secretary General on the list of witnesses. But then, why is he a witness? Why is he not a suspect in this matter? My answer is, In her capacity as a Secretary General, I could only assume, because I'm not the one who normally charge,
Yes.
the Prosecutor General. And if you are blaming for anything about what I'm saying, maybe you can ask the same, put the same question to the Prosecutor General as
Yeah.
well. Then I said, I assume the only reason why the Prosecutor General could not find any wrongdoing,
Yeah.
you see, in the Secretary General is because there is no evidence, because we could not find evidence
Yeah.
of money going into the bank. If you are the managing director of your company here,
Yeah.
and then your company is found to be involved in corruption, as a managing director, definitely you will be charged in your capacity as a managing director of your company.
Yes.
And this is exactly what's happening with some of the people outside, whom the prosecuting authority wants to come and face charges. Some of them, it is in their official capacity.
Yes.
And that is exactly the same example I was trying to refer to here, to say,
Yeah.
no, look, had there been evidence showing money going directly into the bank accounts,
Yeah.
then possibly the prosecuting authority would find a reason to charge her in a capacity.
Yes.
But for now, and the other point again, you must remember that because they were asking for this specific Secretary General, the present Secretary General of the Swapo Party was not a Secretary General of the Swapo Party at the time when these things happened. Even if it was, assuming we found the evidence, of money deposited into those accounts.
Yeah.
The question of asking me who will do that, obviously we know. We know. You will also not do it.
Exactly.
Because corruption is also happening in the media industry, and we don't find the money getting into the bank account of you people who are paying you money to write certain article. It's not you specifically, but we know these kind of things are happening. Definitely, it's corruption that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
In the media industry, it's also there. Let's take the reality of
Yeah.
the matter, and we must fight all of us together. We must fight these things.
No,
That is actually the explanation I gave.
Yeah.
I never said that individual members of a Swapo party did not receive this money. I never said these individual members supported their organization in one way or another. I never said that. I was referring to a specific question that was raised, pointing to the Secretary General. And I wanted just to, when you have this workshop, you want to educate people how things work.
Yeah.
I know it's difficult for people to understand how the law works sometimes.
Yeah.
But if they could listen to you, they will learn something. Problem is that the people come with a preconceived conclusions.
Yeah.
They come already there, but they've already concluded that no, the Swapo party is corrupt, Secretary General is corrupt, the President is corrupt.
Yeah.
When you have that mentality, you don't even listen to when people are telling you.
I hear you.
It's only the court at the end of the day that pronounce and clear those people who are being judged and found guilty by the public.
Indeed, Mr. Noa.
Yes.
No, I wish we had enough more time, as a matter of fact, because the conversation was just getting nice here. But thank you, Mr. Noa, for making a stop by. We really appreciate your time. I hope to have you back again sometime in the course of the year as the need arises.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you
That
very
is Mr. Paulus Noa, is Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission, filling us in on his work and how he is doing it. Thank you for watching.
All right. I promise that